Trucker Rod and the S.E.E channel. And as you can tell by the thumbnail, I'm back here at the Rudders. 3 out of the last 4 weeks I've been hanging out here. And it's, like I said, it's been a truck stop I used quite a bit back when I ran reefer. But anyhow, if you could, like, comment, and subscribe. In the commenting, it just helps get the algorithm, push it out there, and like the video. I am just keeping it to a Sunday or once a week live stream. I'm going to get back into other long formats, probably one through the week, besides the ride along. The ride along is going to be dropped this Thursday, the 17th at 9 a.m. So look for that and hit the bell notification. That way you'll get notified when that video gets dropped, and then you can click on it and go forward. Don't forget that as we climb towards the 1,000 subscriber mark, we are going to do a giveaway for a pail with detailing supplies to just appreciation, to say thank you and to build this community. As you noticed, I changed the thumbnail. I'm going to be trying to do some other things. I'm following some other YouTubers and I'm getting hints and ideas and stuff like that. We are trying to grow the channel. I'm learning as I'm going what I need to do and not be doing. But overall, just getting this channel to grow. I want to do this on my own. I don't want to do a clickbait thumbnail. It actually resonated in my mind the other day, and I bounced it off my wife, and then another channel said, do not do this. I was just going to take a tractor trailer, like a tanker truck and trailer that was flipped over from an accident, and just put on there, should you go into truck driving or something like that. It's clickbait, and especially if you use a thumbnail, as a lot of the housing market and real estate agents used, you know, the housing crash or flames with a house going up in flames behind them and stuff like that. So I don't want to clickbait you guys. I don't want to bring stuff that I'm not related to or experienced in to, you know, say I know something about it. If I don't, I don't. We all know I have associate's degree in heavy truck diesel mechanics. I've held my master mechanics license through the state of Michigan since 1989, still do. I've had my CDL. I grandfathered in 1990 with that. I'm coming up on 2 million miles of driving. You know, I've done everything under the sun that you can imagine, other than like pneumatic tankers, or bulk hauler, I mean. But overall, RGN, flatbed, dry van, reefer. You know, I've been to 70% of the United States throughout. Overall, the Pacific Northwest, I have not. But what I'm saying is, I'm going to talk to you guys on what I know, and if I don't know, let's all learn it together. So that's everything in a nutshell. So today, I wanted to talk about, and it's been on the radar, and that is Arkansas has put themselves in the forefront in the trucking logistics as of late since the first of this year, basically since Trump got in, and that is Arkansas passes bill fining truckers who cannot speak English sufficiently. So now that did get passed onto the governor's desk. It passed 82-0. And here, let me get these up. It is bright and it is sunny. I mean, it is. I'm here in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and 20 miles up the road is Hagerstown, Maryland, north of me. And it's 61 degrees, blue skies, but it is breezy. I was going to try to do something outside, but the wind would just be a deterrent. So, this is from landline.media, and the link is down in his description. But as of last week, Arkansas lawmakers wasted no time getting a English proficiency bill across the finish line, sending it to the governor's desk in less than 1 month. So last Wednesday, the 9th, the House there in Arkansas passed HB 1745 with an 82-0 vote after clearing the Senate unanimously last week. In addition to the English proficiency provision for CDL holders, the bill also makes false or improper documentation a felony for foreign domicile truck drivers. So a lot of these guys, they're getting falsified like medical cards and other jazz. So yeah, that's coming to a change. The paper medical DOT cards is going to go digital June of this year. So when I renew it next year, the second quarter of next year, I renew my med card. It's going to be digital, and you have to look into the registry and make sure that, which my company will probably do here, being I'm a company driver. But if you're an owner operator, you would have to make sure that doctor is in the registry for doing DOT medical cards, because now they have to send it in to the transportation, but I want to say FMCSA. What's the other one? CVSA or something like that. And so that's another way they're trying to crack down on these either domiciled or non-domiciled, but foreign immigrants that have come in and have done workarounds and looped through the loopholes to get the CDLs and drive. And we'll discuss more on that, but this bill here is one step. That med card's another. They're tightening up the reins on these so they can weed out these bad apples. So once the bill, so it's on the governor's desk in Arkansas. Once the bill is signed into law, anyone operating a commercial vehicle must exhibit English proficiency. Truck drivers must be able to show that they can read and speak English sufficiently. And that is converse with the general public, understand highway traffic signs and signals in English, respond to official inquiries. So when they're approached by the DOT and directed on maybe an inspection on their rig and what have you, they must be able to respond back without so much as using their phone as a translator and stuff, and make entries on reports and records. Now, DIY trucking, Alex at Mother Trucker, he put a snippet of his video that his concerns were, these clowns are coming in, or have come in under the last administration, which is just a complete bozo show for 4 years of opening up the borders, letting these clowns in. What would you say if, and I grew up in basically my wife and I grew up in a town, Midland, Michigan, home of Dow Chemical. Would you want one of these ass monkeys going in there, not knowing what they have in their trailer, whether it's a dry van trailer, a tanker, not knowing what they're hauling, because they can't read, write, or speak the language here? And you're going to give them that kind of hazmat? And that's what they're cracking down on, is crap like that. And the crap like construction zones and slowing down for the zones because there's been too many accidents. The last administration told the FMCSA, and DIY Trucker stated this, that he had talked to the FMCSA during the 2024 MATS, Mid-American Truck Show, over a year ago, and they said their hands were tied. The U.S. government told them to don't bother with it and look the other way. So if one of these guys get in an accident, this was under the Biden administration, there's nothing that's going to be done about it. So a lot of these guys that can't understand the signs, the language in a construction zone, a slowdown area, a school zone, they're plowing in and creating manslaughter, and they're letting them off. So this is going to crack down on that too for Arkansas. So with Arkansas doing this, now we're all hoping this will be a contagion to now resonate through the other states. Of course, the shithole California, New York, because they think they're fucking better than everyone else. Those states there, I wish they just annex those states and just say, you go be your own damn country and not part of this. So that's my take, my opinion. If it is determined that someone is driving a truck without sufficient English proficiency, they can be fined, first offense, $500, and for subsequent offenses is $1,000 thereafter. The bill also goes after foreign-based truck drivers who either possess a false CDL or do not have proper documentation. So, what DIY Trucker was saying on this is we have a lot of Ukrainians here. They've come in, they've got their CDLs, they're driving truck, and they are now setting up, and you'll see there's a lot of Russian base out of Chicago, and I tell people, do not sign up or drive for any companies out of Chicago, because most of them are Russian based, Ukrainian. And what these guys are doing, and when they get a truck going, then they get multiple trucks. In just a few short years time, they are 100 trucks in, with an LLC, and they're all hiring foreign like all their buddies from their country, bringing them over, but all these illegals. And they're questioning, how are they getting these companies up and going so quick? And they're saying laundered or drug money. So that's what they've been saying. That's what I've been hearing through other channels. So I've always said, stay away from Chicago. That's just a crap hole to work for any company there. I've talked to a lot of guys like myself who have gone and worked for companies like that. The recruiting, the words, the headline words that get you enticed to come over there and sign in, and then these guys, they get left holding the ball out there on the road. It is just a horror nightmare. We'll get into that with should I go into trucking here after we get done with this. So, one provision will make presenting a false foreign CDL or a Class D felony. That also applies to any public record, which includes official books, paper, exhibits, or records of any type required by law from a governmental office or agency, license, certificate, permit, seal, title, whether a patent. So, a Class D, and I did pull that up because I wasn't sure, but a Class D felony is a mid-level felony typically punishable by prison sentence ranging from 5 to 10 years or a fine. They said on average about 7. The specific penalties and examples of a Class D felonies can be varied between states and jurisdictions. Class D felonies typically carry a maximum penalty of 5 to 10 years. They are generally less serious than an A, B, or C, but still involve significant offenses. Examples of their offenses are drug offenses, possession with intent to distribute, involuntary manslaughter, theft or lower value property, and certain white-collar crimes. So that's a Class D felony. Back to that. So, another provision will make operating a commercial vehicle without proper documentation a Class D felony. Specifically, foreign domiciled truck drivers can be hit with felony charges if they possess a valid foreign CDL, so Canada or Mexico, do not have a valid work permit or work visa in their immediate possession to go with their CDL to be here. Charges can be downgraded to a Class A misdemeanor if drivers can show that. That'll be a Class D if they don't have the proper documentation. Charges, they can be downgraded to a Class A misdemeanor if drivers can show that they have valid work permit or visa at the time of the offense. So the bill that passed was HB 1745, and it flew through the Arkansas legislature as time was running out because they were coming to an end here on April 16th, the legislative session. So they got it through. A total of 3 bills addressing the English proficiency among truck drivers. They were pounding on this for the last couple months. The first one was HB 1914. That was filed March 31st, but it only addressed the English proficiency with language identical to 1745 that passed here, but that didn't go. Another bill, HB 1569, went a step further by essentially banning B1 and B2 visa drivers from the state However, that bill was withdrawn just days before 1745 cleared the legislature. So they've had 3 of these bills. They're going to shove them through one way or another. Something was going to get through, and they're going to shut this crap down. And I cannot be more than happy about it. I'm just disgusted with our government at this point, very, very much so. Is it better in China? Yes. But good Lord, between our government right now and China, the only thing it's missing next to the Nazi regime is that we're not gassing everyone right now. But damn well close with the COVID-19 and the vaccinations. You could almost say they were trying to get us to come on down and get those poisonous vaccinations. So I don't know. You got to be on the swivel. I spoke of this many, many times. Never rely on the government, ever. Whether it's their social programs, any handouts, any grants, I just say stay away from the damn government. Because once they loan you, give you money, anything, they got you hooked. And that's the one thing, that's been my mantra since I've even met my wife. I said the one thing, I don't care if one of my family members wins if they won $1 billion in a mega lottery, I wouldn't take the money. I wouldn't take if they were going to give me $1 million or $100 million. I'd say no, because then they got you hooked. They got you just, I gave you that money, and now they got leverage on you. And that's the one thing I have always been a proponent to push back on. I have stirred up enough beehive as a young kid, and my wife and my daughter know, my son knows, where I got kicked out of a certain government agency because of insubordination. And I have a problem with authority figures. And I don't like people having leverage on me. As I told my wife, I want to be out of the banking system of any banknotes, loans, and I don't want no reliance on the government. I want us to be able to take care of us and never look back onto needing anything from a local, state, or federal level. So now the other subject I have is, should you get into trucking? And this is a subject that's been bouncing around here lately because the market has downturned really, really bad. I can't say if it's been the worst in my lifetime. I know in the mid-70s when I was a wee tot, there was the trucker strike with the oil embargo going on in 74, 75, and a lot of mechanics were left out of work, or they were working and not getting paid. I've talked to a lot of old timers from back in the day, because remember, I've been out here hammering at this since 1986. So I've heard a lot of stories over the years. It was a rough time in the 70s for truckers, especially when deregulations came along. Their pay went right in the tank from that point in the late, 79? So, should you go into driving? And I'm going to give you my take. I kept my CDL. Now, I got my chauffeur's license in September of 86. Then I grandfathered in when I was applying for a mechanic's job. I got, hey, we see you can drive truck. Well, yeah, as a mechanic, you have to drive truck. You have to go pick the customer's truck up or move it around the yard, what have you. So, yes, I could drive a truck locally is all I was doing. Our shop, I would go out with our service truck, pick up a truck, bring it in, PM it, wash it, get it prepped, take it back, because maybe they rented a few trucks from our fleet or trailers, and I'd have to pick up a trailer and bring it back. So, I applied for a mechanic's job in the late 80s. They said you're light on mechanic work that they were looking for at the time, but they were really jonesing. They said, we're basically got a full staff in the shop, but we need a driver. They had a old Mack cab over, some trains, took it out of the yard, ran down the road with it. This is Michigan special, heavy haul. Went down the road, brought it back, and the guy looked at me and he goes, you're the first one to get it out of the yard, because everyone else that came in claiming to be a big-time truck driver, they have never driven anything more than a gas steak rack. So, that was it. first truck was a Mack cab over with a KTA Cummins, big 1100 horse Cummins, 450, 500 horse. It was a tired engine. It was a Michigan Special heavy haul, everything heavy, because everything we did was anywhere from 150. You know, they're going to say, you know, people from Michigan to say, well, that's illegal. You know what? Back in the 80s and 90s, this is what a lot of companies said. Fuck it, run it. You know what? If it's not broke and if it's loaded and too heavy, fuck it, run it. You have the balls to run it, you're going to run it. I ran loads scaled out at 200,000 pounds at Elma, Michigan, had the gas refinery there. We went down just out of curiosity one spring and we scaled a trailer truck, 200,000 pounds. And fuck it, run it. So that's what we did. And 8 axle trailers, 11 axles total with the tractor. So anyhow, I drove truck. Then I got burned out in the late 90s, in the 2000, end of 2000, I was burned out. Sold my house, boat, everything I owned. I packed everything in a Geo Metro and went off to school. I'm gonna be a doctor. 14 years later, I'm laid off twice in a year in healthcare. That says a lot about healthcare and all the money I pissed away in education and all that jazz. And I was slowly going down into a sinking hole of finances because I wasn't making enough money to cover between student loans and, of course, just your normal rent, utilities, food, stuff like that. Just nothing special. We had nothing financed then. So I got pigeonholed with those 2 layoffs. Pigeonholed me to say my wife's now disabled. She was in and out of a wheelchair. Medical bills are stacking up for her. My student loans aren't going to go away. We're going to have to get out of our apartment because the other stuff is superseding, you know, that. I cut my CDL. My CDL, my mechanic's license, carried me through college years. I drove heavy equipment, truck, trailer, to move equipment. I turned wrenches. I welded and fabricated. I did whatever I had to do to get me through college. And looking back, I should have just never went to college. I should have just went into a trade school and got certifications in welding and fabricating and probably went over to Caterpillar and worked for them. So that said, I got backed up against the wall financially. We were already a bankruptcy attorney, and all right, here we go. You know, what do we do? They're like, your student loans, you got to pay them. Her medical bills, if we didn't pay them, they could fire her as a patient and she needs to be treated. So I looked at her and I said, I need to do a pivot. And the pivot was, I'm going to have to go back to driving. And that's what we agreed on. That's what I did. But I said, if I do it, we got to move from one side of the state to the other because the other side logistically is better paid, better companies, and overall just going to be better for us, which in hindsight, it's been 10.5 years and it has been better. I have made 2.5 times more than my base salary at the hospital, because the hospital I wasn't getting crap, and not even for overtime. So I was pigeonholed to get back into driving. Would I have gone into driving if it wasn't for all that? No, I don't think I would have. But I had to be really pigeonholed and forced to say, yeah, I got to get back into driving. If financially, we're going to sustain paying these bills and moving forward. Otherwise, we were looking at probably having to move in with my in-laws because we were going to have to give up my apartment to clear the bills. So, should an individual that's fresh in the industry get into this? If I was on the outside looking for the first time getting in, I'd probably say no. I would say no, not probably. I would just say no. I exercise other options first. Unless you're going to get your CDL and you're going to drive locally for an LTL company, maybe a construction company, dump truck, you know, stuff like that. But to get out here and do what I'm doing, I would say absolutely not. It's not worth it. These big mega carriers, you know, the drivers that work for these big carriers, Snyder, JB, Swift, and all that, these guys are paying dirt wages for what you got to put in the time out here. and the time you're giving up for free sitting at docks to get loaded and unloaded, um, the stress of getting into, the New England states, the East Coast, New York, New York City. I'll tell you what, if you're new and you're going to get thrown into that, uh, I tell you what, find something else. Either look at, if you are going to drive, do it locally. Otherwise, find some other way and means of making a living. But to be out here over the road is horrible. And I'm hoping to bring a guy on. I need to have a conversation with him because his mindset is like mine. He's thinking the same direction, and he and I are almost in a parallel paradigm right now. And Tommy there at Trucking Unfiltered, but he's been in it for about 5+ years, and he is basically, he's like, dude, I've got 9 months or just over 9 more months. He wants to get out. He goes, dude, I am sick and tired of, he's running reefer he's out of Phoenix, but he comes to the east side, East Coast, whether it's from Atlanta all the way up to PA and New York, and then back out. And he goes, I'm losing all that family time, that home time, and that's stuff you will never get back. And that's just one thing that you got to realize. I don't have kids. I really sacrificed, my daughter sacrificed the most with me on the road all through the 90s, because she was born in 86. So 80s and 90s, she really missed out on me the most as a young child. Now, my son, I got out of it. So when I was raising him, I obtained custody of my son, so I raised him. And for that, I got to spend some good quality time with him. Though, getting back into this, the kids were growing up, so my wife's missing out on me. So we devised a plan, and we started businesses just over 2 years ago, and we're working on those businesses. Now, she's just come up with last week and said, what do you think of? And she proposed a business. She's not going to be a multi-million-dollar business, at least not starting out. It could turn into something big, but it's a niche. It's a niche that is near and dear to her heart. And Bob Proctor has always said this. Between him and Tony Robbins, that really set the stage for me to get rewired, to get going out here into getting into business. If you're good at something, be the best at it. Rise up and be better than everyone else around you. So if you're a guy pumping gas at a gas station, be the best guy at that job and rise above everything and everyone else. So that said, I said, hey, put down what it's going to take for materials, tools for assembly. I'll fund it with I'll get a business loan. I said, I'll fund it, we'll LLC it, and let's do it. Let's just see what it's going to entail. And any more than the businesses I got going on, I've got my stock brokerage, my swing trading, I've got AMSOIL dealership, I've got my detailing going on. I was bidding on jobs last 2 weeks. I've been bidding on jobs. I've got details backed up and ready to go. I'm waiting for Michigan to quit shitting itself out at 20 some degree weather with rain and then snow mixed in. It's like, come on, I'm done with this. We got to go. We got work to be done outside, and I need good weather. I got window siding, I got staining, I got all kinds of projects and stuff going on. And like I said, if this place slows down, no pun intended, but hey, if I go from maxing out my logs to down to I'm just going to be working 40 hours a week, hey, that's fine. I'll take that extra energy that was put into overtime that I was getting here. I'm going to put that over here in the businesses, and I'm going to go that direction because I'm going to keep making money. It's not going to slow me down, but I got other ways to make money to make sure I'm cash flowing all the time. And it just, to me, it's like, if you're going to question why you got to work so much, because one day it's my exit strategy to get out of this. I don't want to be sitting here, and as Tommy said, he's got an exit strategy. He knows what he wants to do, 9 to 12 months out, he wants to pivot out of over the road and get into something else, you know. And it's the same with my wife and I. You know, we're going to pivot. We're going to have these businesses going. We're going to be setting up shop and doing other things in other areas in the future. Is it going to be tomorrow or this year? No, but it's going to be sooner than later. I'm not waiting, you know, till I retire, as everyone did. The American mindset and the psychological of it is, you know, when you get 70 or 67 or 65, you retire, and it's like, fuck that. I don't have time for that nonsense. I'm going to be making money like Warren Buffett. Dude, I'm going to be making money if I'm still trucking along in my wheelchair at 90 years old. I am going to find ways to take money to make more money. So it's all about just keeping active and busy doing that. If you just decide that, hey, I'm going to hit 70, then I'm just going to go sit and fish on my boat and live in a trailer down in a trailer park in Florida. Hey, that's you. That's not me. But I don't want to be a lot of these folks that I grew up around, their families that have drawn pensions in different manufacturings, because I grew up on the east side of Michigan, so everyone that I grew up around either retired out of Dow Chemical or the auto industry, so they're on a fixed income. And I say, hey, that's great. You got a pension, you got a fixed income, but I don't want my life dictated to what I can and can't do because of my income coming in. So therefore, I'm just going to keep making money, and the sky's going to be the limit. You know, to me, my minimum threshold that I want to retire bringing in is like $250,000 a year. That's possible, and it's not impossible. It is all about my motivation and hustle to get it done and going. I've got all the tools and everything laid out right there at home, ready to go. So, like I said, I got burnt when I got laid off twice in a year in healthcare, and that was a waste of my time. Because I got nowhere. I never was able to rise up, because that job was never going to go anywhere. And the reason why I say that is over 10 years working in the system, I never got a raise. The only raise I got was moving from one hospital setting to another entity, and I just got increased pay. The first job I had was minimum wage. That lasted, I don't know, 2-3 months, and I quit. I didn't even go back. It's just a pain in the ass, with a bunch of hen-pecking women in there. Second place was a salary position, and they worked the shit out of me on the weekends, holidays, because I didn't get no overtime. And so when I got to the last place, I was getting overtime. I was getting a good substantial pay, but for the 7.5 years I was there, I never saw a pay raise at all. And then I ended up getting my hours cut and then out the door, and so on and so forth. So blue collar work, skilled trades, that's where it's at. I would say, in hindsight, I had my CDL in hand. I had a way to pivot all within less than 30 days. So when I got let go in healthcare and we were losing, you know, like the paychecks were coming to an end, it was like, now's the time to pivot. And I pivoted, and I was able to make the transition from healthcare back into driving and pick up the paychecks, and probably got behind on a few payments, but the wife got them caught up. But overall, we were able to bounce back and keep moving forward, and then dig ourselves out of our financial mess since 2014. And it's been a blessing, and we encounter blessings all the time. But now I just look at the money nowadays to make a decent living is in skilled trades. Don't think for 1 minute a guy that rolls up with a big shiny bling bling truck, I'm going to tell you, don't buy into the eye candy. Don't buy into the eye candy of these Peterbilts and Kenworths and all that. I'll take if it's that and taking a 30% pay cut to get a nice truck, I'm going to say give me the painted rims, plain Jane truck, and give me the highest pay. Because, I'm not going to make a career to retirement out of this. That's for sure. But we have plans to move forward through our later 60s into our 70s and so on and so forth that we'll be able to sustain. And so things like tariffs, inflation is not going to affect us. It affects a lot of senior citizens because, again, they're on fixed income with these fixed income pensions. And when the inflation keeps creeping up more and more, tax assessments go up. So their tax, if they're still living in the home they've had for 30, 40 years, their tax bills are going up. They're getting priced out of their homes. And you got to look at it that way. And you got to position. You got to be looking 30 years down the road, too, of where not only today, but ahead. Learn from your past. Learn from everything from your past, all the experience you gathered, the mistakes. Because you're going to make mistakes, you're going to learn from them, you're going to move forward. But take from today and looking out forward and directing yourself down the road to be able to navigate and keep yourself ahead of what I always say, ahead of the curve. Inflation, downturns. Don't over leverage yourself with buying into the marketing of gotta have the latest greatest new furniture, TVs, electronics, to the flashy car and the big house. Check yourself at the door. That's where they're going to get you, because that's their system. That is the Rothschild system and the banking system. That is the system that J.D. Rockefeller has put together and has sold to Congress with the Federal Reserve and the banking system. And how they make money on us is we become debtors. We take loans out at banks. Well, how else can you do it? How else can you afford things? Lower your standards. Quit trying to live up here and trying to be someone that you're not. Live below your means. So if you're making $100,000, live like you're making $50,000. That way you can put some money in reserves and invest some away and build your future. But everyone lives right up there. If you're making $100,000, they gotta spend that $99,999 and that dollar left so they can go buy a freaking Slurpee down at 7-Eleven. So don't over leverage yourself. Be smart about everything you do in life. But should you get into driving? At this point, no. Is there a driver shortage that, who's announcing this? The American Trucking Association. Who's the American Trucking Association? These are the CEOs and the heads of all the major trucking corporations out there. Your Snyder, JB Hunt, your FedEx, your Swift, all these big players. They're sending lobbyists to, go down and set the laws to go in their favor. They dictate everything to the FMCSA. Why? Because then it leverages them so their companies prosper. And the smaller companies, private fleets like ours, or owner-operators that own just one truck, one trailer, they run them out of business because they want to manipulate and monopolize and own everything in logistics. So that's the way it is. So know that this country is not the United States of America, but the United States of corporations. That's what it is. And don't buy into it. Take care of the little man, the small business. Don't over leverage yourself, and get some trades. Get some skilled trades. Look at plumbing, electrical. Electricians are making great money. They're in need. Plumbers, HVAC guys, heating and cooling. I want to say you could get in as a technician into auto or heavy truck. But I'm going to tell you that the mechanics in semi-trucks, I'm around these guys all the time. They don't make shit. They really don't make the money they should be making as a freaking computer diagnostics, because that's what they got to do anymore, is figure out these damn rolling computers. And nursing, going into healthcare. I've always said, back when I got out, 12 years ago, I said nurses should be starting at $50 an hour. They're taking care of your life. They're taking directions. An RN, that's an RN. They're taking directions from a doctor who says, hey, give them this meds, do this for this, do this, because they're the doer for the doctor. The doctor just comes in, assesses, diagnoses, makes a progress of what we should do, and the nurse initiates and does it. And they should be paid way more. Just generally $50 to start, up from there, because you're taking care of a human life. But our country and this health insurance has put a price on what a human life is worth, and they have and they're playing God. They're practicing medicine without a license. They're acting like God and saying who gets what in health care, health insurance. So between, health insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, I got a chance to even work in pharmaceutical sales, and I said no, I can't sell what I don't believe in. I can't get behind it. I would rather sell AMSOIL, oil, filters, and all that to farmers, construction, mechanics, what have you, but not pharmaceuticals. I can't do it. I don't believe in it, and just can't get behind it. So that's my take. But should you get into driving on my behalf? No. I did, because I was pigeonholed. I didn't have much options without, it's like I'm at the tip of the band has slid off the Titanic. I'm right there. Either my last jump was to get into that life raft or stay in sync. And I jumped on the life raft, which was my CDL, and I got back in and I kept going and afloat. So that's what I did. Look into other entities before make it you've got to be pigeonholed or your very last resort to get out here and drive truck. So that's my take. Anyhow, folks, I'm going to cut it here. Stay safe. Continue educating yourself. Knowledge is learned, not taught. And we'll live stream probably next Sunday. I'll try to, there's a ride along coming this week. I've got another one following next week, and I'm going to be recording another ride along this week to go out here soon, along with all that. So we're going to try to keep things changed up. And over time, when I leave trucking years down the road, just know that this channel is going to continue on. I just won't be behind the seat, but we are going to talk more in the business, entrepreneurship, investing, and all that jazz when I have my studio set up and I'm home full time, years down the road. So this channel is set up so when I leave trucking, this channel is still going to continue to grow and prosper. We'll just probably talk about trucking more from a studio standpoint than a driver's seat. So until next time, folks, stay safe. We'll see you next week on the next live stream.